are back. So sorry for that cut in transmission. The power company or ECG decided to take the light when we're just getting into it. Anyway, we're back. Genset is running. Whether they take the light or off, whatever they want to do, they can do it. It won't stop us from having our show. So where were we? Let me just go back into this. So sorry if you dropped off, if the conversation dropped off and the channel dropped off. That's the reason we lost power. All right, so let's get back into it. So, like I was explaining, all right. So we got to the point where we had used the bot or the input or the prompt. We specified here in the bot asks. We've specified the way we want the bot to ask the question. We specified that we want to call this the user .zip code, and then we've also gone ahead to do some R2 formatting to trim and remove any weird things that would happen. Now, then what I want us to do now is let's go, okay, to the other. Now here, you can see that, let me go in here and show you something right here. So there are two sections. The unrecognized prompt. So this is where the bot is going to provide the message if the bot doesn't understand exactly, what you're providing it, all right? And then here, you can write any validation rule. Okay, and the validation rule could be you want it to be a digit and you want the length to be of a certain type and all that. And then if there's an invalid, like if whatever they provided is also invalid, you want to provide an invalid prompt. All right. So let's go ahead. Let me actually take this off for a while. And then, so let's come here. In the unrecognized prompt, which means if you provide something the bot doesn't understand, let's say, sorry, I don't. Let's do this. Sorry. Make sure our sorry is a small o. Let's say sorry. Let's make it I do not understand. And then you can, now the cool thing about setting values, because at this point you are in the property, okay? So in the property right now, you can decide to use a property. So I can say, sorry, I do not understand, and I can use something like $, and then open, and then I can say this, as you can see, this dot what value, cool intelligence happening for us there. And then full stop, I can say, please specify a valid, all right, zip code, right? Let's just leave it here, okay? And then I can add another one. I can say the zip code, again, $, and then we can use this dot value. No. Let's use this dot value. Again. Yep, let's say this dot value. So let's say the zip code dash, or let's even remove the zip code. Let's just move away and say that. So if we do this dot value means it's going to repeat the zip code. So we can say whatever the person entered is not a valid zip code. All right. Or we can say, oops, I don't, or let's keep it simple. I do not think you provided a valid zip code, right? And then say, please provide a valid zip code. Okay, so just keeping it to something like this. 3, very simple. All right. Now there's something you need to do. Now in the invalid, you realize that we have the validation rule. All right, here you specify an expression that should validate the input. All right, so here what I want to do is that I want to say that as part of the validation, I want the length. So let's type this. I want the length, okay, of this dot value, which is the current property we are in. Okay, I want the length of that to be 5, to be equal to 5. All right, so let me bring that in view. So what I'm saying is that the validation rule is that whatever the person enters, all right, I want the total length of that to be what? To be 5. That's the validation rule. Now, if this is not valid, okay, if this is not valid, all right, it would return whatever, it would use one of the prompts to specify here, okay. So let's go ahead now. Something you need to note, it really got me the first time. See this? Make sure you are hitting enter, else this validation rule will not pick up, okay. So let's go here. Once I've typed it, hit enter, and now you can see that the validation is added. I can add multiple validations as I want to. Now, because this is invalid, it means that I can actually copy this and come and put it here. Okay, the same thing. All right, this was valid. So, oh, let me just take this out. So here we go. So we say that this, whatever they provided, is not a valid zip code. Okay, so I can now say I am looking for a 5-digit number, right? Right? So, and then that's it, right? So I can say that you provided, oh, oops, I don't think you provided a valid zip code, all right? Or yeah, so we can, yeah, let's keep this to the invalid because this is more specific to it. Or we can say, I am not sure I understand what you mean. Please provide a zip code. Okay, and then we can bring this one here. So yeah, we will have to prefix it with a dash. Okay, so cool. So now we've started with a prompt. This is the options of questions that the bot would ask. And then we have the user input. We are storing it as user.zip code. And then we are trimming and removing any spaces. And then we are saying these are the validations and unrecognizable, all right, stuff. Now, here you can have the default value. Now, here, if you look at the default value, okay, what happens is that if after a while, okay, so let me explain this here. If you realize, you see that here from down here, okay, let me go back. Let me bring this here. Now, there's a max 10 count, all right. Now, this max 10 count here is the one that determines the number of tens, okay, to reach. Let's say if the person provided a wrong input, okay, if a person provided a wrong input for, let's say, a number of times, this is when you want to put a default value here. So here I can say that if a person tried 5 times, okay, and then provided a wrong provided, let's say, a wrong input, then I'll put this message here and then I can put a default value here. All right, so let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to put a default value. So let's do this. So I'm going to do a default value of 97008, which is a city I know, it's Beaverton. And then I'm going to change the try counts to 5. Okay. And then in the message, let's probably say let's say, well, you have tried too many times. All right. Let me help you out. Okay. I'll say, let's add another one. I think, let's say, I think you should check the weather for, let's say, let's say, I think you should check the weather for, let's say, Beaverton. And don't worry, this is just hard coded. We can change this. All right. Because I know the city. All right. So again, with this done, I'm going to click on restart bot. And now all what this does is now it's set up my bot to go to the next step. So let's go ahead, wait for the bot to, properly reload. And then we're going to go ahead and test it. All right, so don't forget, we've already opened our emulator. So I'm just going to go ahead up here and do restart a new conversation. So as you can see, when it started, hey, I'm Kofi Ghana, how I have the latest in news, gossip, weather, COVID, much more. So let's start with the weather. Let's say, hey, Kofi, tell me about the weather. Now, do you see it? It says, sure, let's check the weather. Which zip code are we checking the weather for? Okay, so here I can provide a zip code, all right? I can say something else, and then all the other errors and things are going to show up. Okay, so let's try. We know we have 5 counts. I'm going to try all over again. So I'm going to say A, B, C, D, and then enter. You see, it says that, oops, I do not think you provided a valid zip code. Please provide a valid zip code. Let me try again. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's supposed to be 5 digits. Enter. It says that, oops, I don't think you provided. You realize that. So let's say A, B, B, C, C. And then it says, oops. So I'm going to do the count. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then let's try again. So let's say another 1, 2, 3. Short. Okay. And it says, oops, it's not valid. All right. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now on the 5th try, if we made a mistake, it's going to give us something else. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I hit enter. Now, do you see this? It says, I think you should check the weather for Beaverton. That is because we have tried too many times. Okay. So now it is at this point, it's actually set the property of the zip code for us with the default we provided. All right. So that is how you can create do an input or a prompt. Okay. Now we have our prompt. Let's go to the next step, which is adding the HTTP request. So now we've received the user zip code. How are we going to use a zip code to call a third-party API and then get a response? All right. So let's go there. So let me minimize this. So to do this, right after we receive the prompt, okay, we click on another add, and then in this case, what do? We go and say access external resources, and then send an HTTP request. Let me actually bring this in view. Yeah, there you go. All right, access external resource, send HTTP request. You can also connect to Q&A maker. You can sign the user out. You can actually connect to another bot or another skill, all right, to perform this action. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and let's do send an HTTP request. And then if we look closely to the right, now if you've sent an HTTP request before, either in a browser or anything, it's the same thing. Your method, the URL, the body, you can add headers, you can set result properties, all right, and so on and so forth. Okay, very simple, straightforward. So now the API we're going to use, all right, has been deployed. And let's see, where is that API key? I think I have the API key. So let me bring this here. Let me actually bring a browser right here. And then this is where we are. This is actually, let me copy the URL from here. And let me paste it in here. So we're going to use the Open Weather service, okay? The Open Weather API is what we're going to use. So you can see that there's some information coming in, landing, 15 degrees, and there's some very beautiful images. I'll show you how to render all these things in a subsequent episode. So make sure that you subscribe, you're logged on, so when we start streaming, you can see this. So this is it, all right? This is the API we're going to be using. Now, someone has been very generous enough to actually create or host a session. Now, this actually was done in Ignite. So if you're following along with this, you need to go to Open Weather and then create an account and get an API. All right, get an API key. So I'm going to copy the URL and let me bring this thing up. I'll be talking about this in a bit. So let me just push it up there. All right, so this is the call to that API. Okay. So we have the URL API, get rid of the zip code. And now I'll explain this. You remember that we saved ours as user.zip code. So we are passing that in as part of the properties we saved. and then the API. Now this is where your API token is going to be. All right. So I think I have mine somewhere in this file. I'll look for it. Else I'll just go ahead. Let me actually move this off the screen. I'll just go ahead and sign in. Okay. Let me move this here so I can sign in. All right. And then let me go to my API keys. And then I'll copy an API key. Okay. Cancel. All right. So I've copied my API key. All right. So I'm going ahead to actually add that. Now, to test this API, it's always a good practice to test the API, know what the endpoint is providing, okay, so that you can actually deduce it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Postman. You can use any other tool you want, but I want to use Postman to enable me to do my testing. So I'm going to click here, and I know it's a get, and I've already appended my API key. So I'm just going to go ahead and then paste this in, and then we'll do a send. And then now you see that now at this point, no zip code was provided. So I can go ahead and then let's change this. So instead of doing this, don't worry, I'll change that API key as soon as that's done. So let's say 97008, and then let's do this. All right. So when you call this endpoint, all right, this is what you get. Let's see. Can we zoom this? Well, I don't think I can zoom this. I was hoping I could, but okay, let me actually copy this. All right, let's copy this. And then I'm going to bring it back here. So this is how the response looks like. So if you call the API we're going to use, this is how it's going to look like. All right. It's going to bring an ID. It's going to something called main, which is haze, description haze. It has an icon, which actually shows the icon of the weather. It has the weather, which tells us haze, the temperature, the high, the low, and then the city. All right. So cool. So we know there's a structure. We're expecting this structure to come in. Okay. So no big deals there. Let's go ahead and make sure we have this covered. Where's that? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and then let me take this off and then copy my URL again with my key and paste. So here the method is what? It's a get. Then I paste this here. Now, what we need to do now, the next thing we need to do, oh, I think I'm blocking this. Let me take this off so you can see the full thing. So at this point, we are not going to provide anything, in the body, so to speak here. The only thing we want is to set the result properties, okay? Now, what is the result property here? The result property is the same way. We are creating another variable to store the result of the API call. And you know that from what I shared, the result of the API call looks like this, all right? It looks like this. This is how it looks like. So I want to capture this result, okay, into some variable or property that I can reuse, all right? So in the case here, I want to call this one, just give it, a very meaningful name, okay? Let's call this, let's say it's a dialog dot API underscore response, okay? I'll make a note of this somewhere. Let me copy it. Let's paste this somewhere here. Okay, so we know that dialog.api.response is the property that's going to have our API call response. All right. So let's have that. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to take note of. All right. The result properties. All right. The result properties, when the result comes in, can be stored in a specific Bot Composer framework property. All right. So I'm going to show you there are some 4 properties that the HTTP response. Anytime you use a send HTTP request, it's going to have these 4 properties. It's going to have them constant, and that is how you're going to access the data. So let me bring them up here. I actually made a note of it. Let me get rid of and bring it in view. Now, the first one, every HTTP call you do is going to have a status code. All right. Now, this can be accessed by calling your dialog API response dot status code. All right. Don't forget that our dialog response is what has the results. All right. So this status code, you can get the status code of it. Then, if there is a failure, okay, you can get the reason for that. The reason for the failure. Then any content or any response from your API is going to be in the content property. So this can be accessed by using your dialog, okay, your dialog API source of content. So let's make note of this. This is what we are going to be using to get the content. When you call this, you are getting this information. Hopefully that sinks in. When you call dialog the API response of content, you should get the content response. If there is an error, then if you call this dialog.api.response.reason for the reason phrase, you're going to get the error message. All right. And then finally, if there are any headers that are coming from the response you made to the HTTP endpoint, you get them here. But for now, this is just what we need to be. This is what we need to worry ourselves with. So let me bring this here. So we know that this is the format of our response, and we know that we can store this here and get the content in this property. All right, take note of that. So let's bring this out from here. All right, so yeah, now we have that. Now we also need to, because we know that what we're expecting is JSON, we need to tell it that, hey, we're expecting a JSON or JSON, whatever that is. All right, we're expecting this response type. Okay, so we've said that. Oh no, hold on. I think no, it's actually the response type, not the content type. All right, it's the response type because that's the response we're getting. So let's do this. It's JSON. There you go. It's a standard response. It's a JSON response because we are not providing any content. If we are provided a body, then we can say that, oh, this is the content type. All right. All right. So now we are not adding any headers. So if for some reason, all right, you were actually, so to speak, you were using, let's say you were calling an API that needed headers, all right, API keys and all that, you could use that. All right, you could use that to do it. Sorry if there was a very minor glitch. I don't know, but there seemed to be some issue with the power, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. So not to worry so much about that. It looks like my how do you call it? The power went a bit high, so we're not able to it's sparked my stabilizer and some of the things have gone off. But hopefully the stream is still active. All right. Okay. So let's do this. So now we've set up our response, and then we know that our response is going to come once we do this. So I'm just going to restart so that the changes take effect. Let's see what's happening here. Hopefully that should resolve that. So the next thing we're going to do is that now we've made the call. We know the response, okay? We know the response of our HTTP call. Now, what we need to do is to assess if the response is a positive or a negative. All right? So, and you know that for HTTP response, when you make it a 200, okay, a 200 means everything went well, and then if there's any response, you're going to get the response. All right? Anything apart from 200, like, maybe 500 or 4 something, tells us that there's something wrong, and then we can trap the phrase. All right? So let's see. Just a sec. Okay. So this is a bit crazy. Unfortunately, I think I would have to again pause. I'll have to again pause and then go check. There's something wrong with my gen set. So I would stop the stream briefly, and then I would come back. It looks like even 57. Well, I think it will just make sense. We are just 3 minutes away. Again, I'm so sorry for the disruption in power. Um, Well, I'm going to end the session here at this point, but then I'm going to pick up. We're going to pick up from next week. Hopefully, we're going to get a stable thing, and then I would have figured what's up with the power thing because it looks like the current is coming is being a bit low. With that said, thank you for joining today's session. Unfortunately, tech staff is not allowing us to do this in a very nice manner. I'm very sorry about that. So sorry. I'll get this rectified and then we can continue from where we stopped. With that said, enjoy the rest of your evening. It's a Friday. Stay safe. Let's stay healthy and let's make the world a better place. I am out.